Hey, what's up? Zach here, and today I've got the all-new adidas Ubersonic 5. Let's get into them. Now, starting off in the uppers, this is an entire bed of textile mesh, and you get some TPU overlay, especially with the 3 stripes. You do get a runner's knot in these. I will say higher arched feet are gonna have a little bit more lace irritation in these. Once I started breaking them in, really no issues, but in terms of heel slippage, to me, you kind of need the runner's knot in them, just because I had pretty moderate heel slippage, moderate plus heel slippage in these without the runner's knot, and with the runner's knot in there, it was mild to the point where I didn't really even notice it. The ankle collar it's got a decent amount of padding in it, but the one thing is, you look at the upper durability test, 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper. I mean, yeah, it doesn't work its way through the drag guard, but I had a buddy of mine, Beckett, out here, same time as me, doing all these slides in them, like really aggressive sliding. He busted the shoelaces within, I think, an hour and a half, maybe, and you could also tell there was a lot of wear up here in the most proximal lace eyelets. So in terms of upper durability, I think in some places they're gonna be really good, in some places not so much. So even though we'll get into the outsole tread section, you can drag and slide in these things easily. It depends on where you lay your foot down is gonna be how durable they are for you. All right, now you look at the breathability test, the Ubersonic 5s, they only heated up 98.4 degrees, really spectacular. Now, a large portion of that has to do with the uppers. Yes, they do have very dense padding in them, thin padding, but it's very, very dense. Now, the thing is typically with that dense padding, it doesn't breathe. These actually have pores all the way through them, even through the gusset. This is a really aggressive gusset, but it also has those macro channels. So even though the outer layer of it is just this really open mesh and you can just see fog pouring out of that on the breathability mapping, the real breathability comes from the underside because it's got all those giant channels in there that allows that air and moisture to get out. So as you can see, even though these shoes, like I said, do have a pretty aggressive gusset on them, you can give a shoe dense padding. You don't have to bulk it up though, right? It just depends on the materials you use. You're using a more premium material, a more efficient material for padding, then you can get that kind of breathability with this kind of profile. Remember, I said a large portion of the breathability comes in the upper construction, and the other portion of it comes from the mesh cage on the bottom of the shoe, kind of like the Head Sprint Pro, Revolt Pro, and the Motion Pro. This mesh down here allows a lot of air circulation, especially when you're moving around the court a lot. You're getting air circulating on the bottom of the foot where you're producing all that moisture and heat. So you can see fog is also getting out of there. So even before we tear the shoe down, you can see the midsole's got some interesting components to it. Now, getting into the midsole teardown, this is an entire bed of light strike foam, but I think the bigger, revelation in the midsole is the fact that the shank is just so robust, right? You get a bottom loaded shank, runs all the way from the medial to the lateral side, hoops up over the heel counter, really creates a nice sense of stability. The one thing is though, yeah, it is that standard light strike foam. So yes, it is light, but it also is a little bit more unforgiving. Now, you actually do get 2 slabs of light strike in the rear foot because the shank splits them as it goes into the rear foot. So this shank actually does cross the zone, and the slab of light strike under your midfoot is so thin, I'm calling this a top loaded shank. This shank and external heel counter combo is incredibly supportive. It is incredibly sturdy, and it does give the shoe quite a bit of snap. The only problem is the formulation of light strike in these is so dull, and there's so little of it that your foot just feels like it is on the ground. Now, I've seen a lot of different Adidas shoes this year with a lot of different light strikes in it, and it all just says light strike, right? Not light strike pro or anything like that. And so I know that they can dial in the density and obviously the thickness. You need to put a different stack in there. I did put an orthotic in these, and with an orthotic, the heel slippage is a little bit more. I mean, obviously I broke it in a little bit so that it wasn't a big deal, but the rubber is basically as thick as the midsole foam is in the forefoot. So you really are feeling the ground. And if you look at the bounce height test on these things, only got 27 centimeters in the rear foot, 25 in the forefoot. And now, light strike, yeah, does not have huge numbers on the bounce height test normally, but it's because there's so little of it there that mainly you're just getting influence from the ground on that bounce height test. That's also how I felt on these on court. Yes, the speed frame gives you a ton of snap in these things. That is for sure. These things definitely have a diving board effect, but it's that feel when you're coming down. Just as an example, I was playing pickleball with a bunch of the people at Tennis Warehouse when I was out there on my trip, and I went back for a ball because I whiffed on an overhead. I went back, and as soon as I stomped down to kind of do the Jimmy Connors behind my head, it felt like my quads exploded from how little shock absorption there was in these shoes. I immediately took the insole out and then put a power step in there, and after that, it was better. The rest of the week, I definitely had quad issues. Like it was hurting for a while. And even after I got back, it was a couple days before it got better. And that really showed me more than anything the shock absorption issues with these shoes. Now, if you have an orthotic in them, fine. If you're more light on your feet than I am, it's fine. But we'll talk about it also in the fit section. But suffice to say, the shank, out of this world, one of the better ones on the market in the tennis world. The midsole foam setup, really, it's only going to be good for certain players. And so if you are someone that does like to play with a shoe like this, that's lower to the ground, doesn't have as much shock absorption, but has all that feel and that low to the ground feel, and you need something to recover from afterwards, make sure you check out the Zen by Xenon. This is my collaboration sport and recovery slide with Xenon Paddle. We designed this to be a recovery and sports slide for all athletes, especially playing on really unforgiving hard courts, whether it be tennis or pickleball. These things have a mixture of TPEE and EVA, as well as some other surprises in the midsole, which you can check out in the full-length teardown of these that I did. But suffice to say, if your legs are screaming at you after playing for 2-3 hours, this is a perfect combination to get those feet, legs, and back recovered after you just put them through the ringer. So if you want to check these out or check out the review of them, I'll leave them in the link in the description below. Now, getting into the outsole tread, this is a pretty standard flat herringbone on the medial side of the forefoot, then chunky on the lateral side, and you flip that in the rear foot. These are really meant for hard court sliding, at least in my opinion. I noticed I could grip on most parts of the court. The lines though, to me, that's where I was really starting to feel the forgiveness, and I could slide very, very easily. And I mean, most of you that watch this channel a lot know I don't slide all that well, and even I was kind of going. So, and remember that the tread depth on these, actually pretty thick. The rubber is actually, to me, feels a little bit heavy on these, because as, quote unquote light as Light Strike is, honestly, I felt like the rubber in these felt a little bit heavy, so it almost kind of canceled itself out. Now you're gonna get more durability on the outsole for that. On the outsole durability test, 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper, I mean, the burr basically just cleans it off. So, I mean, the durometer on these is ridiculously high at 22.8. So really, these aren't, I mean, for sliding, this outsole tread is going to be really, really nice. And if you look at the Ubersonic 5s on the speed ratio, they come in only a 1.86. Shank score of 0.3, very well earned, brings it up to a 2.16. I think that is very accurate and also misleading at the same time. I think if you have an orthotic in there, something more like a power step bridge is something with cushion. I mean, the shank's nice, right? You don't need, like, they have support, right? It's just the shock absorption. I think, like I said, the diving board effect in these really does a nice job. And like I said, the foam is firm. Like the midsole is firm, so that they move, right? They snap. They just don't bounce, So I think lighter players who like that feeling are going to find a ton of access to speed in these. I think people like me, or maybe heavier footstep people. Even when I was in college playing, on the tennis team in college, I had very heavy footsteps, right? I was quicker, but I had heavy steps, and so I don't think I could have used these even then. So it just depends. Are you lighter on your feet, heavier footstep? Do you put an orthotic in your shoes? Do you not? Do you want to be closer to the ground? You want to feel the ground? Do you want that kind of minimalist midsole setup? Then you're going to like them. If you don't, then I think they're going to feel slower and more dull kind of the more you come into my realm of footwork. All right, but getting into the fit of the Ubersonic 5s, these are pretty mellow shoes. They only have a 6-degree inflare on the last shape, 28.9 centimeter length, a 9.3 centimeter metatarsal width, a 10.3 centimeter toe box width, and then a toe box taper of only 26 degrees. These are pretty neutral shoes as you get from the midfoot into the forefoot. They're a little bit more hot dog shaped. So honestly, narrow medium foot, I think just go true to size. A 2E, surprisingly, I did not cramp in these shoes. I thought I was going to just looking at them, but I didn't. And then a 4E, I definitely would go up 1/2 size on these. If you have a bunion or Taylor's bunion, that's where you might get into some issues just because, like I said, that they are more streamlined shoes. You might want to go up a full size on that, but you might start entering into heel slip territory. So to me, I would, if you're going to get these, make sure you're someone that can get these only going up 1/2 size. Put it that way. You're not gonna be able to put an orthotic in them because you're gonna slip out of them so bad. In terms of the snake bitten foot, like I said, once again, it was really pickleball that showed me kind of the limitations of these. When I was out on the tennis court and I was able to kind of like, slow myself down over a larger period, they were fine, honestly. You definitely could feel the shock going up your legs, right? There's not a lot of shock absorption there. The thing is they're not ankle spraining machines, right? I mean, much more stability than the 4s. Huge improvement over the 4s in terms of stability. That speed frame in the back, that is no joke. really do feel, and like I said, you're so low to the ground on them that, my God, your proprioceptors just kick in, right? Like you're your own ankle sprain protection in these. But if you've got heel pain or ball of foot pain, I mean, you better have an orthotic in these or they're an absolute no-go. And if you're a really high volume foot, like more like a chunky, higher arched foot, you just might not be able to fit your foot and the orthotic in these. That just might be a no-go. If you're someone that's just looking for arch support, doesn't care about the heel and the ball of foot pain, then I think they're fine. In terms of support, right? Lateral support and medial support, especially for the profile of the shoe, they're out of this world. It's just, for anything shock, that's gonna be the issue. And so in terms of playability, yeah, I mean, they're speedy, nimble shoes that have a lot of ground contact, And if you're looking for something, honestly, like I said, for something like pickleball or double, something like where you're coming up to net, you're like taking a really hard cross step to hit that first volley, you are, I mean, like, to me, it was just, you know, it just was a no-go. There's a lot of pros and cons to these, right? There's gonna be some people that really like them, that, you know, it's got a lot of the snap that the AdXL has from Yonex, but it doesn't have the cushion of the AdXL. It's got the stability of the Barricade, but, you know, not even as plush underfoot as the Barricade is, and those aren't the most plush things on the planet either, you know, but at least they've got, you know, they've got enough under there. I think it's a niche shoe. There's gonna be people that really like it. There's gonna be people that are just non-starters for it. Honestly, I think this was the best way to test this. It's been my third day on court in a row, which I never do. So my legs are already feeling a little bit heavy. And honestly, what I noticed is that they did kind of feel a little bit bottom heavy. Yeah, they were super stable, a lot more stable than the 4s and 4.1s. I mean, by far. Side to side movement was a lot easier, but the light strike being light, but also not really, doesn't have a lot of pop to it either. Yeah, like I said, if your legs aren't feeling as tired as mine, you're gonna do a lot better in them. It was just that, yeah, after a while and after my legs are already feeling it a little bit, that honestly, it's weird because the Ubersonic is you know, supposed to be a lighter weight shoe and a little bit more of a nimble shoe. I actually could start to feel them being a little more bottom heavy. So in terms of serving over and over and over again, I would expect a ton of lift and a ton of assist from them. But unlike maybe like, you know, the latest Ubersonic, the 4 and 4.1, you're gonna feel a lot more side to side stability. And I think if that's what you're looking for, then yeah, they're probably a pretty good pickup for you. But like I said, you gotta be the right player for them. So I'd love to hear what you have to say about these, especially it's been a while since the 4s. For sure, and the 4.1 update. So I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you want to see what Adidas has been doing with some of their other lines, the Sole Match Control 2, which has just been a quantum leap in terms of an upgrade. I mean, that shoe is one of the best of the year. Make sure you click into this video up above and make sure you subscribe to the Dubs channel, my brand new channel for more kind of niche tennis and pickleball shoe content. Make sure you subscribe to that down below. Respect, rubber, and foam. I'll see you somewhere in the Sneakerverse.